Good morning and welcome to the Office of Tax Appeals. This hearing will be live streamed on OTA's YouTube channel, and I believe the hearings team has started the live stream now. This is the appeal of Rayner, OTA case number 2212120009. My name is Suzanne Brown, and I am the lead administrative law judge for this appeal. My co-panelists today are Judges Lung and Kletter. I am going to explain a few logistics about how this electronic hearing will work, and after that, we will officially go on the record. And then once we are on the record, I will ask the parties to identify themselves. If at any time anyone has any difficulty hearing someone or is having technical problems with the video conferencing, please speak up and let us know. The Office of Tax Appeals, or OTA for short, will be conducting today's hearing electronically with the agreement of all participants. Today, our stenographer, Ms. Alonso, is reporting this hearing verbatim. To ensure we have an accurate record, we ask that everyone speaks one at a time and does not speak over each other. Also, please speak up loudly and clearly. When needed, our stenographer will stop the hearing process and ask for clarification. After the hearing, our stenographer will produce the official hearing transcript, which will be available on the Office of Tax Appeals website. To reduce background noise, we suggest muting yourself when you are not speaking, but please remember to unmute yourself when it is your turn to speak. And also, if you haven't already, please remember to silence your cell phones so that we won't be interrupted by phones ringing. Please remember that today's proceedings are being live streamed to the public on YouTube, so any information is publicly viewable. Therefore, please be careful not to share any confidential documents on your screen or share any confidential information, such as home addresses or social security numbers. Finally, if at any point you get disconnected, please rejoin the hearing as soon as possible and state that you are rejoining after being disconnected. Now, if everyone is ready, we can go on the record. Ms. Alonso, are you ready? I'm seeing a thumbs up. All right, then let's go on the record in the appeal of Rayner, OTA case number 2212120009. Today is Thursday, October 17th, 2024, and it's approximately 9:34 a.m. My name is Suzanne Brown. With me today are my co-panelists, Judge Tommy Lung and Judge Asaf Kletter. Although I am the lead administrative law judge who will be conducting the hearing for this case, my co-panelists and I are equal participants in deliberating and determining the outcome of this appeal. First, I will ask each party to identify themselves and all of their representatives who are here today for the record. I will start by asking Franchise Tax Board representatives to please identify themselves for the record.
Good morning, Brad Catino, representing Franchise Tax Board in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, I will ask Appellant's representative to identify himself for the record. Mr. Rayner, if you're here, you may need to unmute yourself and then speak up.
Hi, my name is Colin Rayner, and I'm the appellate.
All right, thank you very much. This hearing is being conducted today before the Office of Tax Appeals. OTA is not a court, but is an independent appeals body. OTA is staffed by tax experts and is independent from the Franchise Tax Board or any other state tax agencies. Because OTA is a separate agency from the Franchise Tax Board, arguments and evidence heard before FTB are not necessarily part of the record before OTA. OTA's written opinion for this appeal will be based upon the briefs the parties have submitted to OTA, the exhibits that will be admitted into evidence today, and the arguments presented at the hearing today. Now, a few weeks ago, on September 24th, we had a pre-hearing conference in this matter, and we confirmed that the issue for hearing is whether appellants have shown error in FTB's proposed assessment for the 2017 tax year. Can I just confirm with the parties? I'll ask Mr. Rayner first. Is that appellant's understanding of the issue?
Yes, Judge.
Thank you. And can I ask FTB, is that FTB's understanding of the issue?
This is Brad Catino. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Next, we had documentary exhibits that both parties have submitted that they are proposing to be admitted into evidence. As I explained during the pre-hearing conference, OTA's regulations require that proposed exhibits must be submitted at least 15 days in advance of the hearing. Appellant submitted a document that we've marked as Exhibit 1, and FTB submitted exhibits that are marked as Exhibits A through E. The parties submitted these exhibits with their opening briefs. At appellant's request, OTA provided additional copies of these exhibits that were attached to the pre-hearing conference minutes and orders that we issued on September 27th. Let me ask first, Mr. Rayner, did you receive the pre-hearing conference minutes and orders with the exhibits attached?
I did earlier this week, maybe Monday or Tuesday.
It would have been sent to you on September 27th, but as long as you received it.
I did. I've looked at it a couple times.
Okay. So if you recall, when we had the pre-hearing conference, I said that I was going to ask everyone at the hearing, the beginning, whether you had any objection to any of the exhibits being admitted into evidence. If we admit them into evidence, that just means that they are part of the record that the panel of judges can consider in making our findings in this case. So in a moment, I'm going to ask if you have any objection. In fact, I'll ask that now. Do you have any objection to any of FTB's exhibits A through E being admitted into this case as part of the record?
I do not.
Okay. Thank you. Then I will say that FTB's exhibits A through E are admitted into evidence. And next, I'm going to ask FTB the same question if FTB has any objection to appellant's Exhibit 1 being admitted into evidence. Mr. Coutinho?
This is Brad Catino. Respondent Franchise Tax Board has no objection to appellant's exhibits.
Thank you. Appellant's Exhibit 1 is admitted into evidence. We talked at the pre-hearing conference about whether anyone would be calling witnesses. FTB is not calling any witnesses, but appellant is planning, Mr. Rayner is planning on testifying as a witness. And I'll just confirm with everyone that that is still correct. FTB, you are not calling any witnesses, correct?
This is Brad Catino. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and Mr. Rayner, you understand that you will be testifying as a witness and I will swear you in before you give your presentation.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to briefly go over the logistics of the hearing today. The order of events will be as follows. First, we'll have appellant's presentation, which includes Mr. Rayner's testimony. And then we will have and there may be questions for the witness, either from FTB or from the panel. And then we'll have FTB's presentation. And again, there may be questions from the panel. But because FTB is not calling any witnesses, appellants will not have any cross-examination of witnesses. After the panel has completed questions, we will have a brief rebuttal from appellants. And then I anticipate at that time, we will close the record and the matter will be submitted for hearing. Does anyone have any questions about anything about this proceeding that you'd like to raise before we go ahead with appellant's presentation? Then if no one has any questions, I will say, Mr. Rayner, if we will go ahead with your presentation on behalf of appellants. First, if you can unmute and raise your right hand, and I will swear you in as a witness.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Rayner, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Thank you very much. You may begin your presentation.
So about 3 years ago, I guess I started getting some letters from the tax board. And so after saying I owed money and talked with TurboTax, and they said that there was a glitch in their system online when doing the taxes that duplicated from Part A to Part B. And I explained that the California said I owed them like $10,000. And they were saying, they looked at it and they said, no, you don't owe them money. They don't owe you money. It's just basically paper that's not, doesn't look proper. And so they said, this is what you do to amend it. And so I sent in an amended one. And then based on that, they still said it wasn't right. But Turbo's Tax still to this day, I talked to them last month. They still say it's not me owing them or them owing me. And I said, well, they're saying that I owe them, and they're saying from their side I don't. And I explained this whole 3-year process of I'm in the middle of two big companies, basically, of one saying one thing and one saying the other, and I'm the small man, and I don't know how else to explain it other than TurboTax saying that the glitch duplicated it in like visually on the paper, but in the end there's not me owing money and not California owing me money. It's nobody, it's just basically cosmetic on the paper that so I don't know what else to say other than that. They did admit, they said it shouldn't have done that where it duplicated, but they said somehow there's a glitch. It double did something, but in the end, money's not owed either way. But California says I owe it.
Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Does that complete your presentation?
As far as I know, maybe next time I'll be better at it.
Right. Now we may have questions for the witness. FTB, do you have any questions for the witness?
This is Brad Catino. No questions for the witness.
Okay. Then I will turn to my co-panelists and ask if they have any questions. Judge Kletter, do you have any questions at this time?
This is Judge Clutter. I just have one question, and it may be some years ago, Mr. Rayner, but you mentioned that TurboTax told you, here's how you amend the error or whatever it was. Can you explain when did you submit the amended return? Did you prepare it yourself? What did you amend on it?
Through like you said, it's been a little bit of time, but with their tax people on the phone, I guess when we amended it, we moved it off of B and put it back to A, and then sent it back in that way, if I remember correctly.
So just to confirm, was it submitted through TurboTax or did you prepare it yourself?
Um, I believe it was printed and mailed in. Under it being amended, however that process is.
And was that something that you did yourself or was that something that TurboTax did?
Uh, I did it with them on the phone with me to show me how to do it.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. No more questions.
Thank you. And Judge Lung, do you have any questions for the witness at this time?
This is Judge Long. Judge Brown, no questions at this time for Mr. Rayner. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I will hold my questions until after I've heard FTB's presentation. So we will move on to hearing FTB's presentation. Mr. Coutinho, you can proceed whenever you are ready. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brad Coutinho, and I represent Franchise Tax Board in this matter. The only issue on appeal is whether appellants have established error in FTB's proposed assessment for the 2017 tax year. In this case, appellants timely filed their 2017 California tax return and subtracted wages on their Schedule CA. In part due to the subtraction, appellants reported an overpayment of approximately $12,000 that they requested to be refunded to them. FTB issued a refund of the amount requested by appellants. Subsequently, FTB examined appellants' tax return and determined that appellants incorrectly subtracted wages on their Schedule CA. As such, FTB issued a notice of proposed assessment that added back appellants' wages and proposed additional tax. Appellants timely protested and continue to assert on appeal that they were informed by TurboTax that their tax return is correct despite the exclusion of W-2 wages as taxable income. Pursuant to California Revenue and Taxation Code Section 17041, subsection A1, a tax is imposed on the entire taxable income for each taxable year of every California resident. The address appellants entered on their return and the address listed on appellant husband's W-2 both reflect a California address. Appellants have not provided any argument or documentation that either one of them were not California residents for the entire 2017 tax year. Therefore, as residents of California, they are taxed on their entire taxable income. Accordingly, appellants' exclusion of W-2 wages was improper, and this amount should be included in their California adjusted gross income. Therefore, the proposed assessment issued is correct, and FTB's position should be sustained. I'm happy to answer any questions or concerns the panel may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coutinho. Let me begin with a question. Has OTA received the amended return that appellant was describing?
I don't know for certain, but I know that appellants when they protested the initial proposed assessment, it's Exhibit D of respondent's opening brief. Attached to that Exhibit D, there is a handwritten, what appears to be an amended return. The information on that return seems to be similar to what appellants are suggesting. It backs out the on the Schedule CA, the subtraction to of W-2 income. However, on the first page of that, I believe it's page 3 of Exhibit D, it still shows a subtraction of 118,000 on line 14 of that exhibit. Again, respondent is not sure if that is exactly what appellants are referring to when they say the amended return, but that is the copy that respondent has as it received in with appellant's protest letter.
So this amended return would not make a difference in appellant's tax liability?
Based off the information reported, respondent treated it as correspondence, and it still reflects that it appears that the W-2 wages that appellant husband received was excluded from California taxable income, and it does not appear that there's any reason for why that income was excluded.
Thank you. Now I will turn to my co-panelists. Judge Lung, do you have any questions for FTB at this time?
Judge Brown, no questions at this time. I'm still going to wait for Mr. Rayner to make his rebuttal, then I will have some questions later. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Kletter, do you have any questions at this time?
I do not have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Let me turn back to Mr. Rayner briefly. Mr. Rayner, if you could unmute and be prepared to address what FTB just said. I'll still give you time for a rebuttal, but this seems like a good time to ask if your amended return still shows that you're not that you're subtracting your wages from your taxable income. Is there a reason for that you believe your wages are not taxable?
I believe my wages are taxable, but talking again, going back, that 3 years or whatever it was, they walked me through. Like I remember getting a piece of a letter saying what was wrong, and so they walked me through how to fix that part that was wrong, and then that part was sent in. They are saying that it is correct, of me not owing them, but they walked me through step to step how to do it. And from their side, they're saying I do not owe. But and again, none of this is like trying to be fraud, or it's just literally the TurboTax tells you what to plug in, you plug it in, but TurboTax company still says it's right based on the amendment. But California says different. And I did live in California for that year, just to be clear.
All right. If no one has, if the panel does not have any further questions at this time, I will say, Mr. Rayner, you can go ahead and proceed. Oh, sorry, Judge Lung, do you have? No, okay. Mr. Rayner, if you are ready, you can go ahead and proceed with your rebuttal, and then we may have additional questions for you.
Explain rebuttal. I'm not.
Oh, now that you've heard FTB's presentation, if you have anything that you want to add or clarify or say in response, any final argument, you can go ahead and tell us that now.
I mean, it's going to just kind of go back to what I've already said. I mean, they're saying that it wasn't taxed fully. TurboTax says it was. And that's I don't know what else to do other than I'm in the middle of two strong people.
Right. If that completes your rebuttal, then I will turn back to my co-panelists and see if they have any additional questions for either party. Judge Lung, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Judge Brown. Mr. Rayner, I'd like to go back to basics here. The 115 or so thousand in wages you received, who was the employer?
I've worked for two companies, I guess. Kaiser Kaiser would be the one for the 115.
Okay,
That's the one I'm aware about.
well, that's the big one. So let's stick with that. And so at that point, you were in 2017, you were residing in California, correct?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Now, which specific instruction from the TurboTax software told you to subtract out the $115,000? What did they tell you in their software? Why did they tell you to do that?
You mean when it was originally done?
Yeah. Do you remember?
Well, they don't tell you. It's like an A to Z. You go through the program of plugging
Mm-hmm.
in numbers, and it asks questions. It's just a computer program,
Mm-hmm.
and you just plug it in as you go, and as you finish each area, it says complete. It says good. It says until you get to the end.
And
And
you
it
did,
says it
y-
looks good. The computer says it looks good. The program says it looks good, and then they file it.
and you did say in the program that you were a California resident, but they still told you to subtract out your Kaiser wages.
I followed the program as it
Mm,
prompted me to do so.
okay. And
I didn't try to finagle literally it's like plug and play,
yeah,
plug and play all the way from A to Z, and then you're done and it sends it off.
okay. So when you got them on the phone and they walked you through the amended return, did you actually use the TurboTax software to prepare your amended return?
No, because the software, I guess, they had a new system, and they
Mm,
actually it was hard to get those taxes originally. So it wasn't a way to redo it through TurboTax. It was
mm,
externally was the
okay.
only way to do it per TurboTax.
Okay. Um, Thank you, Mr. Rayner. Mr. Catino, um, I'm assuming that when the taxpayer's original return was filed requesting a refund, that refund was granted?
This is Bracketino. Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And so that's basically the entire amount of the proposed assessment today, right?
Roughly, the refund amount, it's
Mhm,
Exhibit B. It was a refund of approximately $12,000. The
mhm.
proposed assessment is about $10,000,
Okay.
approximately. And so, yes, that is the difference, essentially.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Judge Brown, I am finished. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I will turn to Judge Clutter. And Judge Clutter, do you have any additional questions for either party?
This is Judge Clutter. I do not have any additional questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I believe then we've completed questions. And Mr. Rayner, if you don't have anything further, I believe I can say that we can close the record. I have heard the witness testimony. I've heard arguments. I've admitted the evidence. And so if no one has anything further to raise, I can say that this concludes the hearing and the record is closed, and the panel will decide the case based on the evidence, arguments, and applicable law. And OTA will mail both parties the written decision no later than 100 days from the close of the record, which is today. Thank you, everyone, for participating today. The hearing is now adjourned, and I believe this concludes OTA's hearings for this morning. Hearings will resume this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good